Hi. Like I was saying to Bruce, it's been kind of a day. I don't know. I'm sure everybody out there knows that Rush Limbaugh died today. Yesterday. But yeah, that kind of
That bum you out?
sucks. Well, I mean, one thing you could say is he kind of is the pioneer in all of this kind of stuff. He took a media that was dying, made it successful, and the way he made it successful was doing the stuff that everybody was telling him not to do. Because to do a talk show, you have to have guests and you have to interview people, and that's what a talk show is. That's the format for a talk show. And he was the one that said, no, there's no format for a talk show.
I guess. He did his radio format for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody was always telling him that he had to have guests.
Oh, I see.
And he had to do interviews, because that's what radio shows are. They're interview shows. They're not anything else. But
I guess.
he was the first. He did a 3-hour-long show, and it was nothing about guests pushing their latest movie or anything like that.
That's true. I used to watch him way back in the day, and then he became all about proclaiming himself right.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
not right wing, but like right. So like he would spend. I swear, I felt like he would spend out of a 3-hour show, 2 hours just telling everybody he was right.
Yeah.
And not like, here's the evidence of this, blah blah blah. See what I mean? No, I was right. I procrastinated it. I was right.
Right.
It was like, yeah, and then he would do a little bit of callers, and then the rest of the show was all ads.
Well, there was quite a few ads, yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like,
right.
What? I'm getting 10 minutes of actual stuff here. So I stopped listening to him a long time ago. I know he got better again.
No,
but
his show was great. As far as
drove me nuts.
He I don't know. I mean, he was kind of the pioneer. I mean,
well, a lot of people did it, but this type of talk, just talk radio like that, yeah. I mean, so many people did stuff, but
yeah, I mean, but to do a show, and it's funny because
I mean, you can go all the way back to like Walter Winchell.
Who's Walt? Yeah.
Walter Winchell, back in the 20s and 30s, who did radio shows like that. You know,
but did he have guests or did
no? He didn't have guests. He would just comment on the news of the day, and he was like he became the maker or breaker of people. You know, if he talked bad about you on his show, like if he found out you were destroyed, if he talked good about you, you were made. You know, he became very, very powerful back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff's all.
Well, I mean, the great thing you can say about Limbaugh was they called him America's anchorman, and that was because so many news organizations have been caught just flat out lying about stories, just making crap up and putting out these stories.
No, it's called selectively editing.
Right. No. Honest to God lies. And,
Lies.
I mean, that's the one thing you can say about Limbaugh is, he was never lying about anything.
Well, it's like this one guy I listened to. He says, I might be wrong, but I'm not lying. Do you know what I mean? So,
right.
So sometimes when people are just wrong, we equate them to lying.
Right.
No, you're just wrong. You were just ignorant on the subject or something, But then there are people that just straight out just lie.
Yeah,
Lately in the last 5 years.
AOC.
Oh, just, yeah, AOC. Are you kidding? The impeachment trial was just how many lies they said in that was ridiculous, and they caught him on them.
Yeah, I know.
That was the reason they had to quit. Well, they didn't have to. How did they still vote 57 something or other when pointing out the lie? So they all just agreed with the lie.
Yeah, that's the way things work now.
I can't. I just get my heart rate up. So I was going to show you this. I don't know if you could read this.
Oh, by the way, welcome to the show.
Yeah, whatever.
Burnout Studios.
Hey. Sure.
Burnout Studios. I'm reading chapter 12 today. Other than that, yeah.
Usually we do all this talking beforehand. So, because even though we do get political usually in our, eventually it happens.
Mm-hmm.
We usually leave all the political stuff for the beginning, so beforehand, so that we don't get ourselves in trouble. But I don't know. I don't know if you can read.
Are these more thumbnails?
Yeah. So this is actually.
This is a kind of a thumbnail thing that he does when we're working on layouts for the comic book.
Right.
I don't know if anybody even saw that or if it was blurry as hell.
So
there's the
planes, and then the radio operators.
Right.
And then, the radio, and then asking if all's clear, and then back to radio operator again. You got all that?
Yeah, I can tell.
And then this is, I think I really pegged it, because this is like inside the cockpit is the hand coming up. There's the mech up behind him.
Nice. And
then the mech standing here. He says, I can't remember what he said, and he says, F that, I'm going in, and he dives. This little spot down here is like is Cappy's ship, you know. So like this is Cappy's ship. There's another one that's hard to read. Oh, that down there, that's Cappy's ship, kind of.
Poor Cappy.
And then going in, and then here's the head turning, the eyes zapping up. Right. He says no, and then I didn't have him completely de-res the whole plane, because I wanted it to explode, and then have it debris falling on the mech's head. I think that as it looks, it's just like cold. It's just like as it's looking at the rest of the ships going by, and there's like, crap, it's gonna get us. And then
that's nice.
Then that's the planes, tails, right? So they're flying away. Then we move into the mech's face.
Right.
And I don't know if I need to put her face here to match that, so you know that we've gone inside. But I thought it was pretty relevant that we've gone inside. Then here she is talking. I made this little stupid thing like this to be the representation of the computer talking back to her. Talks, and then the night, and then there's no dialogue unless you want to put something.
So you want to put the title page after?
Yeah, it's the title pages.
That's kind of cool.
Because
I don't know if anybody can see that.
Because all that happens with the mechs, and then you have it say, people often believe technology, because you just saw technology destroy them, and then we go there, and then I did some stuff here to show actual medieval knightry stuff, and then
that's nice.
The planes whip over their heads. He's looking, says, "Wow, have you ever seen such wizardry?"
Right.
And this is blah blah blah, and then he's like, "What?" Then we have our hero shot of Lucius on the. That's the only time. I probably should get rid of these guys, but it's the only time that he's been that somebody's been.
That's
that
what
big.
that is.
Yeah, well, they can't see that.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, we can throw it on the screen or whatever.
Eventually,
it's funny. What I just pointed to for the people that are watching. There's a picture that Bruce did of Lucius a while back. There
this one.
And it's funny because I actually have that on my wall at home because I thought it was such a cool picture. But that's our hero right there.
It is a cool picture.
Yeah.
And then you had them talking about the diary and all that stuff, blah 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 blah. Right. And then this is my idea was you have the one kid way in the back that wants to do the flying thing, whatever.
Right.
In fact, I even have him here say, I want to try that flying device with his arms out. Stupid. But, what's his name? Angus says, let's go or be left behind. So the guy charges from behind. And then as he goes by, Lucius is standing still. And he's like, I had thought it'd be fun to throw in line. Come on, Lucius. Just kind of like,
right.
Come on, Lucius.
Kind of
adventure. It's adventure.
Well, no. I'm just for some reason that made me think of Kevin Costner's character in Silverado.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was. What it is.
Yeah.
It's that character.
That character type.
Saying, it's adventure.
Yeah, let's go do this.
Because what fascinating is I was like, okay, well the planes are going that way, but then he says, let's see that floating person. It's like, well, I still said the mech was going down for repairs, so we can still have somebody point to the mech that's going down into the forest and saying, don't you want to see what that floating device is?
Right.
When another kid's saying, but I want to see those things. It's like there's the two things happening at the same time.
Right.
I still think it works. What I'm having, I finally got all this worked out. It took me a while to get it worked out, and then it finally just started clicking. And then where I'm stuck right now is how to juxtapose the Nazis ambushing them, but make it look like, I don't know, somehow that they're gonna ambush the knights. You know what I mean? It's like, we understand that something's happened, right? So hopefully it'll work out. I'm just trying to figure out how to get it to look right. But I've got some great new stuff that I went and I found these. I want this. I like, because I love this idea of this captain coming out. You got all your soldiers prepping, whatever type thing. Then you have the machine gun, thing. And I want the captain to come down. You can see like something in a haze out there, so that you can tell they're ready to ambush them. And I had this idea of this officer squatting down behind them.
The MG-42.
Yeah, just squatting down like ready, now, fire, whatever, and then we can switch to them getting shot off and switch to the machine gun just and then chaos erupting. But it's how to get that sequence down that we don't take, that you match that they're gonna shoot the knights instead of just thinking, I thought we were done with the night thing.
Right. No.
You know what I mean? But
right.
I don't want that just to be, we're back at the night thing again, I guess, but
right.
And then I found some really cool, much better things of like how they're going to advance onto the knights and stuff. It's so cool. This type of stuff, it's so awesome. Then this one, it's just, can't wait to put that stuff down.
I can't wait either.
So, I wanted to have the initial, everything out to the flashback.
Right.
Because then I have it out to the flashback, but we've talked many times about what's going to happen there is we do the flashback with Garvin.
Yeah, I still think Garvin's, so central to the character, or so central to the story that
Well, I think he is, but yeah,
he's the discoverer of the life element. So.
But that can be told as just a story.
It could.
It could be just told to. Well, I don't know who you tell it to, but it could be told to somebody at a bar type thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And because it's like, I don't know. I almost feel like Lucius's story.
Yeah.
Is just because we're already now connected to Lucius, and he is the hero. So it's almost like him learning it would be, and then there's the why everything got thrown into chaos is because Garvin found life, and then Lynn found death, and blah blah blah. But that's why I think it might be.
Yeah, but I mean, the great thing about the comic book or the graphic novel is that it's not really a linear story where Lucius is the total focus.
Well,
it allows us to
oh well
explore everybody's backstory more.
A little bit, but I still think he's the main hero.
Well, yeah,
because it's almost like it's tropey that you go on the hero's journey with him. So who's the hero? Is Garvin the hero?
Well, in book 2, he's.
Well, book 2,
right?
But I mean, in the graphic novel, who's the hero?
Well, in the first graphic novel, there's an introduction to so many different characters because we're talking about a planet here.
Right.
It's hard to even tell who the hero is until because Lucius. Honestly, you could think of him as this crazy person that thinks he knows what's going on, that now he has to convince everybody else on the planet that he's the one that's right and everybody else is wrong.
Right.
Because they're all telling him that it's aliens.
But he's still the hero.
Right.
Because if he convinces them and he's right, then he was the hero.
Right.
And so from 1 to 8, he's the hero. He's the guiding hero. So it's almost like we need to go on his journey.
Right.
And Garvin's story is just added information to his hero.
Right.
Whereas it almost seems like if we were to go back on with his introduction to magic,
all the way back to this,
all the way back to him with no, seriously, all the way back to him with Mykonos,
right?
And you go through that little opening section, him going into the shop. Meeting Jesse, Izzy, all of them doing all that stuff. Even I don't know if we have to go into school, but you can show him doing the training and learning, and then later in explaining why Len's doing what he's doing, then you do the story of Garvin seeking out the lady in the woods. We don't have to learn about him training because we already did it with Lucius, which is who we're tied to. It's Lucius now the master with his Padawan type thing, and Garvin is seeking out the lady in the woods, and we learn about that through him explaining how life was created.
Well, I like the lady in the woods thing. But.
You know what I mean? Because that's essential to the story. It's just not if he's the hero. It really doesn't matter. Right. Actually, it doesn't even matter unless you just want to put in the filler, because you can just say there's life element and he controls death element. He wants to destroy things. Because where in it does life element really matter in your linear story?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it does.
It does, but because all we care about is stopping Len from doing the death stuff. And does anybody heal anybody with life? Because I don't remember anybody getting healed by life in the story. Other than Isabel in the woods from the old lady.
Right.
She's the only one that I remember actually being healed.
Because, most of the characters are elven and they heal themselves.
And even if they heal themselves, but nobody actually, it's not like a trope that, we're going to learn about healing because it's going to come back and save somebody later type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I don't know, something to think about. Because I drew a little picture on Instagram that it was Lucius lost in the woods, and then I put your beginning story underneath it.
Nice.
Of him scared in the woods looking for blah blah blah. That thing got tons of hits.
Nice.
That was a character moment that people really resonated with on my Instagram. which makes me think it would be a more powerful story to tell than Garvin's. But you can think about it.
I mean, the weirdest thing to me, and this will actually sound weird when I say it, is I have this all written down in a novel format, 4 novels, and it feels really weird when I pull a scene from this novel and put it in a graphic novel, even though truly that scene where he meets Garvin for the first time, that is pulled from the second book.
Right. No,
it feels weird though. I don't know why.
Really?
I don't know why it feels like I'm stealing or something, and I don't know why.
Stealing from yourself?
Yeah. But it's weird. But yeah, this actually kind of reinforces what I already thought was because when I first thought of doing this story as a graphic novel, after I had written book 1 and book 2 and outlined book 3 and 4, I thought, wow, this would be a great graphic novel. I thought that I was just going to end up chucking all this work I did, scrapping it and doing it just as the graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad I didn't, because I honestly think that this linear story as a novel plus the graphic novel, even though it's telling chunks of the story in flashback, they don't really hurt each other. They actually support each other and makes the story so much deeper.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it would be what would eventually be really cool is we get to a point where the books have been released as the novels, and the graphic novels have been released as the graphic novels, and then the game comes out as an RPG, which I wrote first, by the way, and then that gets translated into a video game where the stories are just whatever the person wants them to be, because I want to do an open world type role-playing game just set in that world, and it just all of that just makes it such a huge, deep story, and that my hope is that it just goes on and on and on forever, even after I'm dead. So yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm excited to put the books out as they're and get them edited and put those out, and then put the graphic novels out, and yeah, let's get this party started, man. Because I'm just.
I wanted 2 things. I needed to start. I needed to figure out how it was going to start, right? And I want to get it out, like I said, out to
at least to the flashback.
Because that should be. Right now it's out to 50 pages, but that probably I've consolidated. This is only 16 pages to where I'm at right now, so it'll probably only get out to, it'll depend on how much fighting I do with the Nazis.
Right.
So that can either be 10 pages or 2 pages.
Right. It can be easy to.
I could just, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Or showing the elemental powers and showcasing a bunch of that.
Right.
So that's something to discuss, because that's what I had it bam bam, and then I went back and I drew a bunch of stuff, and then I was even going to add more to it. So
I'd say you do it as you do everything that you want to do, as far as make it as fun as you want, because if you like something, seems to be a recurring theme with me. If you like something and you think it's cool, so will the audience.
So I want to get that done, and then I wanted to also have out to X amount of pages, wherever that is, so that we would have a legitimate it's like, okay, we know we're going to do an 80-page book.
Right.
And then as we're building our audience through the streaming of me drawing it, if it works, if we get more from this, and our audience starts building, growing, you're learning more about it, and then we would be able to have a set Indiegogo or Kickstarter. You know what I mean? We'd have a set. We could actually know what we can offer,
right?
How long it's going to take to offer that. Whereas right now, we're kind of in such a limbo. It's like, well, how far out? I mean, if say we did 80 pages, well, where does 80 pages end? Does 80 pages end with, there's so much in that first graphic novel. I mean, do we even get to the samurai?
I mean,
I wanted to end with the samurai.
I wanted to get to the presidents, honestly.
Right, but that might, depending on how much action you showed, whatever.
Because I always thought that president scene, which, by the way, you guys don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, they do if they listen to the past show, because we discussed this before, because we both believe it should end.
I've always thought that it could either end at the president stuff because it's a great cliffhanger, or the second book could start on that presidential scene.
That wouldn't be that'd be a different take, because that would be like, wait,
right?
Where are we starting here?
Right.
Because that would be, because I think I would like to show Lynn Shatteredtime.
Right.
I think that would be a great thing to end on.
Yeah.
Because it's like he shatters time and creates this new world, and everybody hails it as great.
Yeah.
And then we cut to
the presidents.
Presidents.
Yeah, that's possible.
And what would be really interesting about that is you have Abraham Lincoln walking down the thing,
right? And
then as he opens the door, I know you have all these presidents in there, but instead of just having all the presidents in there, like right after, what's happened, it's all these different presidents, but now we're in the universe. It's almost like things have been going on for a little while, and they're not like.
Well, yeah, we could have some of them in a conversation and some of them doing whatever they're doing. But basically, anyway, just so the audience knows, there's a scene that I wrote there where Abraham Lincoln is walking down a hallway in the White House, and he opens the door to the Oval Office, and in the Oval Office are all of these different presidents from every different time period. Or every different time period that had a war, I should say.
Which is every time period.
Which is every time period. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, and so it's kind of a cool scene. Once again, from my point of view, as the writer, it's a cool scene. But God, as an artist trying to draw that, good luck, man. Yeah, good luck. That's a lot of people to draw in a big round room. But yeah. So yeah. But once again, I've really I really enjoy these podcasts because I love reading these
so
chapters.
What about this? This changes the book drastically.
What?
But because Lucius is heading towards England to get the diary to the king.
Right.
He thinks it's to William, but it ends up becoming to the prime minister.
Right.
Blah 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 blah. But it'd be fascinating if Lincoln walking down the thing opened up the door and all these presidents in there. Then you got Lucius and you have Paul. You have all your characters and some of the knights, and they're intermingling, talking with the different presidents.
That's a thought.
I don't know how that would change. That would change the story, but that would be
right.
That would be kind of a psycho thing.
Scene.
Psycho scene.
Yeah, that's a little bit more to digest there.
Not only that, but I know he's going to England. But in every disaster movie, oh man, I have my microphone so far away. I'm sorry.
didn't even think about it. But in every disaster movie they've made in the last 20 years, London always gets nuked.
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I think people like to see Big Ben blow up for some reason because it seems like that's a reoccurring theme in a lot of movies.
Right. London always gets...
And Big Ben just boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I kind of like that big clock.
You know, so it would be kind of funny that they were headed there.
Right.
And then it got obliterated because
right.
It seems like everybody just wants to obliterate London in the wars, you know?
Right.
And so then he had to go to America. Or...
Well, yeah. Plus, you know, I mean, with like the mech driver and any person that he meets from the future, they would be able to inform Lucius that the world's gotten smaller, kind of, you know, because, you know, there still are different country leaders, but, you know, everything seems to be connected.
Right.
Especially further into the future. I'm sure it'll be a one world government almost.
Well, you don't. It almost. Well, you could do that, but I, you know, you do it closer as Len keeps changing history, and you keep moving it to a one world government as he keeps changing it. But at the beginning, it'd be fun to have all these areas that become like, I mean, old West towns, frontier towns. But frontier town on the sides of New York City, frontier town on the sides of LA. You know what I mean? It's still frontier type of living, but they're on mega scales. Or you have these new places that have popped up because all the urban areas got nuked. Or, you know, well, not nuked, but like got obliterated.
Right.
And so then you have places like Kansas, or you have places like here, you have all these new urban new areas, but they're still kind of rural in the sense. And as we're looking for land or doing or however the book goes, we go to these places, and then we see as land keeps changing time, we see architecture start changing, we see things evolving, and it'd be fascinating to go from what we know now to post-apocalyptic, everything's destroyed and shattered, to settlement, and then just watch a whole new world get built up.
Right.
That'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, to really think ahead, but then you go into the RPG game, and you get to spend time in each area. That'd be so cool.
Oh, I have no doubt in my mind that this would be the coolest video game ever.
I mean, you're in an old West town here, you're in Roman town there, then you're in a futuristic space station here or something. Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Running around, you know, with whatever weapon of choice that you have. I mean, he's casting spells or shooting
hitting
guns,
stargates and stuff,
shooting guns, swinging lightsabers, whatever. Awesome.
Okay.
But now if we only knew how to make a video game.
Oh man, we can barely make a comic book, let alone make a video game. We'll leave that up to the professionals.
Yeah.
I mean, we can be the guiding, directing force of it, but we can leave the zeros and ones to professionals, and
right.
And that stuff just hurts my head.
Yeah.
I was listening back to a little bit of our last podcast, and we really do need to get ourselves a boom. Some boons.
Oh, good mics, yeah.
So we can, we got mics. What we need now are boons to
bring it close to your
face.
Put
it right. Because I noticed that when I had my microphone really close to me, it sounded really
great.
good.
Yeah.
And then when I had it over here, it sounded that echoey, tinsy sound.
Yeah, because I think this microphone is picking up you. When the further you move that away from there, both mics are picking you up.
Right. So we need to have it here, and then a pop filter also, and that would help. It's just spending money on it.
Yeah.
Because we can attach it to that thing, and
I mean, hopefully,
and you could just bring it right down to you.
I mean, I'll get my tax return and maybe I'll look into that.
Yeah. The little the little kit's only $20 per moon.
Right.
So it wouldn't be so bad, and I just been thinking of other things lately. I've been thinking about a new chair again. Oh, my back is killing me. Oh, it really is.
Yep.
All right. I've
So
rattled
are you
on
messing
enough.
around with that picture or whatever?
With this picture?
Yeah,
No, I had it on here because sorry people. Like I said, we usually do a lot of this beforehand. So I am writing this, or what I wanted to see is on my thumbnail how that fit on the page. This actual picture. If I used this actual picture,
right,
and so you can see if I even put the hooves out, down,
right,
if I whatever, it just kind of looked funny. I don't know. So that's why I initially had the heads down there on the thumbnail, just to fill in that space. Although, I mean, technically, I could also just do this and it would cover up all that. And then it's just him in the scene, clouds behind him. Boom. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
So that might just do that with the wording with him saying, I've seen fireballs and blah, 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 blah. Right. But I also did it because, so the way I have it set up right now is an 8x11 format. So it would be printed just like this.
Right.
I don't know. Do you like that size?
I think 8.5 by 11 is perfect.
There's a great book called Jolly Roger. The story's okay, but the art is flipping amazing. And yeah, I bought it for the art. So, and the other reason that I started it the way I did is because I was looking at how they start books.
Right.
So we could have this inside cover thing. And every one of these is different that I have. And then I also have this one that's, I think this is 9 by 12. Which is cool also.
Right.
But
yeah,
I don't know which one. And this feels more premium. I mean, this feels, but what I do know though, and so the reason I went with 8.5 by 11 is there'll be more. It's less cutting.
Right.
For a printer.
Right.
Whereas this is a specialty size.
Yeah.
This is, even though this is a specialty size, it wouldn't cost as much as making this.
Right.
And to begin with, unless we have a giant audience, this is the way to go.
Right.
And so that's why I'm doing everything at 8.5 by 11.
Works for me.
Okay.
I think it's a good size because it allows you to be really detailed in your pictures if you want.
Right, and not only that, but it will translate really well to a paperback version also.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we can be able to sell hardbound and a paperback.
Right.
And paperback will be slightly cheaper. The only thing right now is to figure out how many pages, because like I talked with you before, in my research of book sales on those sites, there seems to be that's too much. I don't want to buy that.
Right.
That's not enough for what you're charging me. It's not worth it. And then there's like this sweet spot of that's my value.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, I go with the old adage of a story is as long as it needs to be.
Right. Well, but the thing to me though is we have 8 books.
Right.
Doesn't mean it can't be 9.
Right.
Doesn't mean it can't be 10.
Right.
But
the width of the book.
It's just each issue has, like we don't want to price ourselves out of.
No,
people loving the idea of it, but
I know what you mean, but I mean, all of that is important for the first book.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're right, some people don't want to read something that's too thick, and some people don't want to read something that's too small. But at the same time, what I think will be great is whatever page count we use on that first one, we don't have to follow that rule on the next one.
No, it's not about the reading of it. So I think people will read it no matter what. It's their value per dollar that I think people are worried about.
So
it's
wouldn't that
30 pages for $25 isn't worth it. It's
Right.
too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But 160 pages for $100 is way too much.
Right.
And the problem though is the printing goes up
Right.
You think it'd get cheaper, but the only way it gets cheaper is more volumes.
Mm-hmm.
100 books, 1,000 books, 20,000 books, then you're really getting cheaper.
Right.
But like I was saying, what I've noticed though is that people that have a huge book, and therefore have to charge a greater price, don't seem to be. They still get sales,
Right.
because they have fans,
Right.
but they don't get the casual readers that probably that extra 30-40%
Well, yeah.
that a lot of people are getting, that actually makes the difference on whether it's profitable to do this as a business.
But it's funny because in a bookstore, where things are going to be placed, is funny because they have in bookstores now they have graphic novel sections, and everybody fights for the shelving space and stuff like that. They want their books here at eye level, et cetera, et cetera. What cracks me up is like my novels and my graphic novels are going to be in completely separate parts of the store.
Not if it's really good, then they go in the same spot.
Yep. If
Put it on the table.
If it once it becomes mainstream and people are talking about making it into a movie or something like that, yeah, suddenly everything's on the shelf by itself, right next to the RPG.
And the statues. Because I must admit, that's really something that I look forward to. I probably look forward to stuff like that more than video game.
What's that?
It's like a statue.
Oh, like toys and action figures?
Not just toys. Well, toys and action figures are cool, but I love figurines.
Yeah.
I love like a 12-inch or 16 or 18-inch figurine maquette of a character.
Right.
And something that's
like Lucius on a horse right there. I think
Lucius on a horse would be amazing. It'd be really expensive, about $500-$600 for something like that.
Right.
There's one right now that I would love to have of John Wayne on a horse like that, and his is, I think it came out at $400, and now the run is sold out, so everything's like $500-$600 to buy it on eBay. But so
crazy.
Cool, so awesome. I love that stuff. That's one of those things. If I could make money, I'd love to have.
Right.
In a studio. That, and I'm getting way off. I haven't even started reading yet.
No, that's okay.
There's a place called Sideshow Collectibles, and they'll do a 12-inch figure like this, right? But the face is highly sculpted. It looks just like the actual character. And then if these were the precursors to that, so this stuff's even as high quality and high detailed as these are, because I think these were like $90 for one of these. The guns for these are die-cast metal. I keep them up so they don't break. But so that when you actually put the gun on him, it got a little bit of heft to it, so
Right.
it actually pull. It doesn't look plastic, like, oh, it doesn't weigh nothing, there's actually a pull to it, which is really cool. But they have some Star Wars characters and some of the Batman movie stuff. And stuff looks amazing. And then there's guys out there who go and they take those and then they rework them.
Yeah.
There's a guy that has, he gets these Heath Ledger's Joker.
The Joker.
Oh my gosh. On Instagram. Well, he gets this Heath Ledger Joker, and he's gotten a hold of the Joaquin Phoenix one too, but the Heath Ledger one. And he's even he cuts the head and he puts in eyes.
Oh, so they shine.
Not just so they shine. He paints them so they shine, but he can move them. And so he can make it look
As a different angle.
at you. And then he goes and he touches up all the paint, like makes it real. And then he cuts the hair off and he puts in hair that's dyed. And when he gets done and he's holding the head in his hand, and it's looking at you, it's the creepiest freaking thing you ever seen because it looks too real.
Right.
It's awesome. And he crunches up the clothes just right so they're not just stale and hard flex. He crumples, he gets it all. It's so cool. I have to show it to you. It's the creepiest thing you ever seen.
That's funny.
He does these ones of Arnold too, as Conan, that are just freaking awesome too. So cool.
I got the shiny, flexy muscles.
Just what I need, a $400 toy on my wall, right?
Yeah. That's funny.
What's funny is worst part is, when you try to find something, it's like, hey, you've been posting every day for a week, and then all of a sudden, you don't post nothing for a while.
Right.
There's also this girl that's been doing, I follow her as a sculptress, and she's been doing this, she did this one of the Khaleesi, the mother of dragons from Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
It's so amazing.
That's cool.
This stuff's so expensive. Well, what should I draw today?
I don't know. But I will be reading chapter 12.
Chapter
12 is called Izzy's Project.
Izzy's Project.
Yep.
Okay.
Shall I start?
Go for it.
Okay. Izzy's Project. Over the next 10 months, Spaz, Skank, and Kane leave everyone at the school alone. And they turn their aggressions toward each other. Kane no longer considers Spaz and Skank respectable after the fight. I would have never laid there and let that freak step on me, he shouts from Spaz's upstairs bedroom. Spaz's voice reverberates through the house quickly after Kane's. Don't blame this on me. If you were able to do magic, then we would have won the fight without a problem. Lucius listens from the safety of his new room on the ground floor. He decides it would be best to move out of Kane's room altogether and bunk with his new roommate and friend, Zed. Zed seems to be opening up more now that he seems to have more confidence than he used to. He doesn't slouch to hide his face as he walks, and Lucius is the only person he will really talk to. Lucius is grateful to finally have someone he considers a friend. The one person he believed was a friend, Izzy, never seems to attend school. Izzy and her group, led by Max, take extra long trips into the woods, sometimes not returning for weeks at a time. Migno has finally made the decision to tell Jezzy about Izzy's behavior and sends a written letter to her with the relief guards. Lucius sits in a row next to his classmates, concentrating on his breathing and trying to relax his body after all the intense exercise from just moments before. Migno speaks to the class from the front of the classroom. As you stare forward, focusing on nothing, the people and things around you will start to blur. This is normal. We tend to try and fight it because that is the way we have been taught. Let the world blur. and you will begin to see the true world. Lucius allows his vision to blur, just as Mycno explained. He continues his breathing, staring forward. The blur changes into colors. The world seems to focus, but the colors are surrounding the people in the room. The students in his peripheral vision are surrounded by a different colored haze. The ground itself glows with millions of different colors and orbs, and Mycno is surrounded by a beautiful green glow. The blur should be coming into a sharper focus, and you should start seeing colors, Mycno announces as he walks back and forth in front of the class. You should be able to see the energy surrounding everyone, including me. Can you see my energy? Lucius watches as the green around Mycno grows to twice its size, spreading across the room like a wave. The green wave stops before it hits the students and recedes back to Mycno. The energy reforms and slides across the room like a snake, slithering slowly across the floor towards Lucius and finally shooting out and grabbing for him the way a hand would. Lucius jumps backwards, falling onto his back, and the world returns to normal. The older students in the class laugh as Mycno walks over and stands above Lucius. You have reached the first step. You can see the energy. You know it exists. Now you must learn to control it. The part of the class Lucius once thought as useless was now his favorite part of the class. Meditation had changed. It used to be a class where he would stare into space for no reason, but now he used the time to examine the energy swirling around him. Even the air around him had a bluish haze of energy. For a month, the class concentrated on the visualization of energy. Although physical movement was still part of the class, students still attacked each other, and the defensive reaction was still to blend with the energy of the opponent. But now Lucius and the other students were required to watch the opponent's energy pattern, which made the exercises even easier. As a person attacked, their energy moved first, showing the intent of the person and making it possible to predict the person's movement. As the energy lessons continued, the class concentrates on their own energy, learning to move their energy and make it grow. Lucius feels like he has found a whole new world within himself, a world he never knew existed, and he even practices when not in class, spending his spare time in his room staring at his hand, watching the energy change into any shape he wishes. Mycno stands in front of his seated students, pacing back and forth, holding a knife in his right hand. The students watch his energy. I don't want anyone trying this, but I believe it is necessary to show you. You need to see what is possible, Mycno announces. He holds out his left hand, placing the blade of the knife on his outstretched palm. He jerks the blade down hard, cutting deeply into his palm and holding his hand up for the class to see. Blood drips from the wound. The class can see the energy around his hand change color from the normal green color to a grayish haze. The energy from your body can be trained, Mycno says. The energy is the true part of you. Your body is the vessel that carries it. When the body is injured, your energy is what helps your body heal. The wounds heal over time. The same is true when a person is sick. The energy combats the sickness, but the more you rest, the faster the healing time. When you are at rest, the energy is able to focus on the one task of healing. So if that is true, can we speed up the healing process even more by focusing our energy with our mind? He stops talking and concentrates on his breathing. The class watches his energy spread across his body, moving toward the wound on his hand. The energy throbs around his hand, the bleeding stops, and the color changes back to its original bright green. You can see I am able to stop the bleeding. Also, see the color of the energy around the wound has changed. The color indicates a sickness or something wrong with the person. McNo concentrates more. The energy moves around the cut, zigzagging across it. The flesh is pulled together as if sewn. If I continue to concentrate, I can close the wound. With practice, you can use your energy to change your body and heal yourself. This is extremely important because you new students must practice. You have a test coming up. It is time to move on to a new robe. Over the next few months, Lucius and the class learn to focus their energy to affect their body. The class starts with simple tasks, concentrating on a part of their body and turning it solid when struck by a sharp knife in that spot. They aren't even scratched. They move on to growing their hair and fingernails to twice its original length in a matter of seconds, and they finally move to the more radical techniques like practicing changing into other people or into animals. The test is a week away for Lucius, and he spends all of his time practicing. Zed helps him prepare. Lucius and the other green robe students must show they are able to change a part or all of their body. The test has become a contest among the students. Each student is trying to outperform the other. Zed and Lucius sit on the floor in the middle of Zed's room, talking and practicing. How long ago did you take this test? Lucius asks as he stares at his own index finger. The fingernail grows longer and sharper, resembling a cat's claw. Zed watches the transformation before answering. It was 2 years ago. What did you do? What did you turn into? Zed smiles but doesn't answer. Lucius, intrigued by the smile, repeats, "Oh, come on. You gotta tell me. Did you do something great? Did the other students love it?" "It was the best of the day. At least it got the biggest reaction." What? What did you do?" "Here, I'll show you." Zed responds, pulling his hood back over his head, hiding his scar-covered face. 3 seconds pass, and he pulls back his hood, and the scars are gone, and he has a full head of long blonde hair. Lucius stares in awe. "Wow, you look great." Zed smiles and shakes his head side to side, and his normal features return. "I wish I could hold it forever, but for some reason I can't permanently heal." Lucius finds himself in a position he has been trying to avoid. He never wanted to get into Zed's personal life. He didn't want to hurt Zed's feelings, but now he can't help but ask, How did you get the burns?" Zed grins at Lucius. "I'm surprised it took you this long." "I didn't want to make you uncomfortable," Lucius explains. "It's okay. At least you didn't believe all the stories." "How could I? They sounded ridiculous." Zed pauses. A look of misery sweeps across his face. "The stories are partially true. My parents died and I got scarred in the fire, but I didn't start the fire. My parents were killed by elven soldiers for protecting a human. He was considered a spy by the king, and he was locked away under the castle. He escaped and led the soldiers through the woods, ending up at our house and hiding in our cellar. I don't know if my parents even knew he was there. The soldiers surrounded the house, setting it ablaze. We tried to get out, but the soldiers had locked us in. My parents didn't know magic, so we lay on the ground to escape the smoke. The fire was so hot. They used a bucket of water to keep me cool, but the water didn't last. My parents were gone. They died in the fire trying to shield me from heat. I laid under their bodies, smelling them cook. I thought I was dead for sure, but the human saved me. The floor burned through and gave way. I fell into the cellar. The rubble buried me. I was on fire and I would have died, but the human heard my screams and dug me from the embers. He knew he would be caught, but he sacrificed his life for mine and carried me outside through the cellar entrance. He was executed the next day. Paul sits at the table, and Jesse's tavern. Paul sits at a table in Jesse's tavern with Stella and Stern, drinking from a large tankards and watching Hadassah as she dances around their table. No music is playing, but that doesn't seem to bother Hadassah. She continues her gyrations, rubbing her body suggestively for her captivated audience. Paul, Jesse's voice resonates through the tavern. Paul sits upright in his chair as if he has done something wrong. Paul, Jesse repeats as she comes into the room from the kitchen clutching a piece of parchment in her hand. What? Paul responds. Paul, I need your help. It's that daughter of mine. I knew she would do this. Do what? She isn't going to class and she is somewhere with that group, Jesse exclaims. You want me to find her? Of course I do. That's what you do. Find her and their friends, Jesse responds, throwing the parchment on the table. Izzy, Max, Sheena, Kara, and Kate are leaving a supply store in the treetop elven village carrying a large sacks of food and supplies. You think this will be enough food for everyone? Izzy asks Max. I think it's a start, Max answers. How are we going to keep buying food? We're almost out of money and we need to feed ourselves, Izzy says, shifting the bag on her shoulder so it's more centered. Don't worry, their crops will be ready to harvest soon, and we can show them how, Max explains, as he creates a funnel of wind that carries the five of them gently to the ground. They can't feed us their food, Izzy responds. They don't have to. Once they have a good harvest, we can leave. The five of them place their bags in a rickety old wooden carriage pulled by a mangy-looking yak. Max sits in the driver's seat, taking hold of the reins. Izzy sits beside him, and the others ride in the back of the carriage. Max snaps the reins, and the yak pulls them into the woods. Excuse me. Migno rises from the ground in the castle garden. He sighs deeply as he surfaces and bends backwards with his hands pressed against the small of his back. He stretches back as far as he can go and then relaxes. He moves toward the exit, flinching slightly as he moves his legs. He massages them briefly as he walks, and after a few steps he begins rubbing his shoulders while rotating them. He finally stops, sighs deeply again, and exits out the front of the castle. Turns left and heads for his house. Migno, Lucius calls from nearby. Migno stops walking and waits for Lucius to catch up. I thought I was going to miss you, Lucius says, slightly out of breath. Hello, 'tis a great day, don't you think, Elder? Migno responds sarcastically. Sorry, hello, Migno, but as Lucius stares at Migno's weary-looking face, he can't help but ask, You look exhausted. What happened to you? I guess my age is finally catching up to me. Lucius doesn't know how to respond to this. It was true Migno was close to 300 years old, but he had seen Migno run at full sprint 7 times around the city wall, which is roughly equal to running to Jesse's and back. So what sort of activity would have Migno so drained? But you're in better shape than me. All I can say is that I was in an advanced class. Anyway, what is so important? Migno asks as he resumes his walk. I just wanted to ask you about the test. What do you need to know? Well, as you know, the test is kind of a contest between the students. I was wondering what you did for your test, Lucius explains. Lucius, you don't need to play this silly game. The test is not a popularity contest. I just wanted to do my best. No, you just want fame, Migno says sternly. What's wrong with a little fame? In my case, it might help. Wouldn't it be great if the elves of this kingdom started liking me? For every person that liked you, there would be 3 people who would hate you. Even more. I'm comfortable with the way things are. You are no longer the subject of gossip. Hopefully, people will forget about you. Depression sweeps across Lucius's face. Lucius, try and focus on doing your best. This test is not to impress the other students. Okay, how should I prepare? What are you looking for when I take the test? When you take the test, I am looking for how well you control your energy. It should seem easy. You shouldn't have to concentrate for a long time, and the energy surrounding your body should remain healthy and strong. I need to see that your energy is growing. If it doesn't grow, you will never be able to control the elements. So I can do anything? Lucius asked, sounding surprised. Yes, anything you want. I'll be looking at your energy. Even something as simple as like growing my hair longer? Yes. Well, how do I fail the test? The test is trying to remain calm and focused while standing in front of a class. Your energy depends on you remaining focused, and it is harder than you think. The pressure can be tremendous, but the first test is the easiest. The greatest strength of a magician is the ability to think clearly under pressure. If you can think fast in a fight, you will win, Mikno explains as he reaches the front porch of his house. What is the next test like? Lucius asked, not expecting an answer. All the tests are meant to test what you have learned up to that point. When you learn how to control the elements, you will be required to show your skill. What happens when I learn everything? Learning never stops. At a very young age, you learn to walk. You don't even remember it, but it happened. You were shaky at first, but with practice you became steady. With more practice you could run. Then you could jump. Practice will always give you improvement. We are here to help you practice. You should never stop practicing. If you stop, you will cease to learn. Every time you think you have achieved all there is to know, you will find a small piece of information to change the way you think. Mikno responds as he opens the front door to his house. Well, I guess that answers my question. I'll see you in class tomorrow. Yes, have a good evening, Lou. What? Mikno looks past Lucius and after a short pause begins to smile. Lucius turns to look at what has caught his attention. Paul, Stellick, and Stern stand in the street among the bustling crowd of people and students. Students stare as they walk past them, going to their classes. Anybody else would be hard to spot in such a crowd, but since they're wearing armor and weapons, they stick out easily. Paul walks towards the house as he waves a greeting. Mikno intercepts him on the first step of the porch. How are you doing? He asks, shaking Paul's hand. I'm great. It's good to see you again, Mikno. And you, little man, Paul says, rubbing Lucius on the head and messing his hair. Lucius smiles and asks, What brings you here? What brings you out here, Paul? I'm tracking someone and the trail starts here. Jesse got my letter, Mikno expresses. Yeah, she sure did. And I'm here to find Izzy. Well, how can I help? Mikno asks. By the way, as I'm reading through this, and it's funny, the further and further I go in this book, the more I need to go back and fill in all the scenery, because like I've said before, I write the conversations first, and there's a lot of stuff that's, missing. Anyway, but continuing on. Deep in the woods is a group of tiny adobe houses. Blah. They look more like upside-down birds' nests than houses. Around the houses, the ground has been turned under and crops have been planted. Some fields look ready for harvest, others look just planted. In the field by the house, 3 halflings hold a cumbersome-looking plow as it is pulled by a ragged-looking yak. A group of onlookers, Max, Izzy, and a male halfling, watch as the three halflings plow. Once you finish, this will be the last field planted this year, Max exclaims. I can't begin to thank you enough, the halfling responds. You have ensured that we will prosper. We were just doing what we thought was right. We just hope your village will grow into an empire. You certainly will have enough food, Izzy announces, looking at the crops and comparing them to the small number of halfling houses. We have to be ready for the town to grow. I thought we might find her here, Paul announces to McNell as they look down at the halfling village from the top of the nearby hill. Why? What do you mean? Why would you know? That elf Max asked for my help months ago. He wanted me to help teach the halflings survival and combat techniques. I never would have thought, McNell exclaims. What? I mean, he never comes to class. He never attends practice. I figure he was out somewhere having fun. I wouldn't have ever guessed he was out helping someone. I don't care about him. I'm here for Izzy. You're right. Let's get her. What do you need? Why do you need me here? You may not know this, but Max is a much practiced wizard, and he is with 3 other wizards. They are not as powerful as he is, but I believe in being prepared. Again, Mecno seems surprised to hear such noble words regarding Max. So I'm here for... You just have to be intimidating. They will be afraid to use magic if you're here. We're just here to talk to them, correct? McNo asks as he watches Paul, Stellick, and Stern take inventory of their weapons and supplies. Of course we will. That's how we will start, but I doubt it. She will cooperate. If she doesn't cooperate, then what? We use whatever means necessary, Paul says, holding up a bundle of metal shackles. Izzy, Max, and the male halfling continue their talk regarding the future of the halfling village. Well, I can hardly wait. Shit, Izzy exclaims mid-sentence as she happens to glance up and spot Paul, McNo, Stellick, and Stern riding into the halfling village on horses. Max and the male halfling turn their attention away from Izzy and watch as the riders approach. Are these friends of yours? The halfling asks. You may recognize the black-robed one. He is a teacher at the castle, Max answers, surveying the landscape behind him nervously as looking for a place to run. Why are they here? The halfling asks, shielding his eyes with his hand and squinting hard at the approaching riders. I think they are here for me, Izzy responds. Are you in trouble? They're armed, the halfling says, looking up at her with a look of concern on his face. Don't worry, we aren't in danger, Max answers, kneeling down on his knees till he's closer to the halfling height. I would never do anything to endanger all we have helped create, he says reassuringly, placing a hand on the halfling's shoulder. The horses come to a stop, and the riders dismount. Izzy, your mother is worried, Migno announces as he approaches. Hello, sir. I'm glad you have come to visit, Max says, rushing forward to shake Migno's hand. I would like you to meet the newly elected leader of the halfling village. This is Taser. Migno pauses, examining Max for a moment. Pleased to meet you, Taylor. I wish you and your people luck, he says, bowing to Taser. The halfling Taser looks thoroughly relieved to see Migno's friendly face, but keeps glancing uneasily towards Paul and the twin dwarves. Thank you, sir. Thanks to you and your students, luck is no longer needed, he says, cheerfully bowing to Migno. That is great to hear. I beg your forgiveness, but I need to speak to my students alone. Will you excuse us? Mick asks as he bows back to Taser. Mick, Paul, Izzy, and Max huddle together near a tree on the outskirts of the halfling village. Sir, I'm sorry. I brought Izzy out here. It's not her fault. She was simply just following me, Max asserts. Izzy's a big girl. She doesn't need your chivalry, Paul exclaims, staring at Izzy, who was busy staring at her own feet. Paul is right, Izzy. You're old enough to make the right choices. Why do you have to throw away the chance Jesse gave you? Migno asks, advancing on Izzy to place his hand on her shoulder. Izzy steps back away from Migno. She stares at him and his outstretched hand disgustedly. I didn't throw away anything. I wanted to get out into the real world, away from that life of servitude. But I can see that my keeper is unwilling to let me go free. I should have known she would send someone. You spoiled little bitch. You should feel lucky to have a parent and a home, Paul shouts, sliding forward and grasping her arm in a blink of an eye. Izzy yanks her arm free from Paul's grips and shoves him hard in the chest, only manages to move him a step back. I'm not going back, she declares. Max slides between Paul and Izzy, and a determined but clearly frightened expression on his face. Paul grabs a set of shackles from his belt and moves in closer, staring past Max at Izzy. Max pushes against his massive chest. Paul seems unaffected by Max's presence and shouts angrily, "The hell you are!" But he is cut short by the sound of explosions in the distance. Everyone stares at the reddened skies as it flickers, and the colors of red and orange smoke begin to billow, and through the smoke, giant winged creatures circle and swoop toward the ground. What the hell are those dragons? Paul gasped as and the shackles in his hand falling dully to the ground. It looks like they're over the castle, as he responds, as the smoke increases in density and mass. Lucius runs to the window of his bedroom. He can see an enormous smoking hole where the castle used to be. The towers can be seen sticking out from the top of the hole as the flames and the smoke bellow around them. Deep in the center of the enormous hole where the garden would have been located, giant goblin-mounted red dragons fly through the center of the castle. They have long serpent-like bodies covered in scales, giant bat-like wings, and their front arms are smaller than the rear legs. The body being so long, Lucius can only compare it to a hairless ferret or a weasel with wings. The shadows of the dragons circle around the outer fence of the kingdom. They swoop at the buildings. Great pillars of fire erupt from their mouths, igniting parts of the town. On the streets below, people run about searching for safety. Lucius is shaken by the sound of more explosions. Across the hole, he can see the once magnificent royal stables shattering into pieces. Centaur soldiers are heaved lifelessly into the air next to the stables. Elven soldiers rush out of the barracks only to meet a red dragon sweeping from the sky. The goblin knight on its back hurls round objects down onto the roof of the barracks. The building explodes in a ball of flame. Brick and mortar and wood are thrown violently in all directions. The elven soldiers scatter like paper. More goblin soldiers march out of the enormous smoking hole. Lucius never thought of goblins as scary creatures. He himself was much larger than they are. On average, they were only 1.5 feet taller than a halfling, but their small size didn't seem to matter to the hordes of people rushing to get out of their way as they marched through the town, wielding flaming swords, igniting buildings as they passed. The people unfortunate enough to be in their path are cut down by flaming blades. The flesh of the falling sizzles, and the stench of burning corpse wafts through the town. Lucius, we have to get out of here, Zed says, watching the carnage from the same window. Good idea. And that takes us into chapter 13, the Goblin War. Who's that?
Who's the guy with the burnt face?
Zed.
Zed.
Aw. That's so nice. Can they see? Can the people at home see this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. I didn't see us on there. I didn't know.
We're
Underneath.
on the side.
Ah, there we are. Hi. So yeah, that's chapter 12.
Prima donna.
So yeah, I mean, this podcast definitely helps. I mean, to be honest, I haven't gone back and edited anything, but this does help. As I read through it, I can see there's lots of stuff I need to put in there, you know.
Right.
Because there's some sentences where you can't even tell who's saying it.
Kinda.
No, I mean, if you were reading it, I mean, I can tell who said it because, you know, I can read it in a different voice or whatever.
No, I can pretty much tell who's saying it.
Right.
It's just sometimes inflections.
Right.
But other than that, though,
Yep.
I usually
But
can tell who's saying it just because your flow is blowing up. That you know who's talking.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think I need, you know, because like there's that one scene where Paul, Stellick, and Stern are come up and they're in that crowd where Mikno and Lucius are walking towards his house, but up to that point you don't realize that they're actually walking in a city where there's a lot of other people around. So I need to go and add all that kind of background there, because you only realize that they're in a city where there's a lot of people because, you know, that I have that one line in there that Paul, Stellick, and Stern kind of stand out in that crowd because, you know, A, they're human and they're also heavily armed.
Yeah, not only that, but like, what's the city look like?
Right. Because that's another thing, because the school is next to the castle, and there's that scene where Lucius looks out the window and he sees a big hole where the castle used to be, but he can still see the spires of the castle sticking out of the ground, meaning that it fell into the hole. But yeah, I need to go in there and include that kind of stuff in there to describe the layout of the city.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, all that stuff can be added, which is good.
I mean, which is fascinating is you have in the graphic novel, I mean, and even in the book, you have, it starts off as a YA adventure, a young adult
Right.
adventure type of story, and then turns into an adult story.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, you know, people grow up. As far as, you know, may start out as a kid, but eventually they get older and maybe have kids of their own, etc., etc. I mean, hell, even Harry Potter, by the end of the last book there, he was getting, you know, he had a girlfriend and all that other stuff.
Right. But I mean, so that, I guess all kind of goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning was you could have Lucius's
story as a YA adventure at the beginning, and then it turns into an adult adventure at the end.
Right.
Then that way, that's how it would
Rush had the
transition, I guess. I don't know. I mean, loose, but
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know how to. I don't know what I would use as the as that scene that for the flashback.
oh, to explain it.
Yeah.
Well, he tells the president about Len, and in order to explain Len, you would have to start with Garvin.
Right.
You know, I mean, you could
Yeah.
start probably pretty easily right there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that in the lick? Zed?
Sure. Poor bald Zed. Poor badly burnt Zed.
Right. He's not in the graphic novel.
No, he's not.
Seems like such a pivotal character for Lucius. How come he's not in the graphic novel?
I guess you'll find out.
Oh. I don't know what that means.
It doesn't mean shit.
Uh-huh.
No way.
We know your way your brain works.
Nuh-uh.
Poor Zed. Hopefully it's heroic. I don't know. Quick and dirty.
I'm not saying anything.
You're not saying anything?
Right.
Why not? Is it wrong?
What?
The picture?
No, I'm talking about what happens to Zed.
Oh, what happens to Zed? You're not
Yeah,
spilling
I'm
the
not
beans
gonna-
on what
I'm not
happens
spilling
to
the
Zed?
beans on anything.
Yeah, well, we know your penchant for enjoying to kill off people. So
I don't kill people.
no, you might not kill people, but I know your penchant in movies and stuff that you like when they do.
It all depends.
All depends. You know, it'd be interesting is I don't know if have you looked into creating the magic system. I know you, but like you know how like in Naruto they actually have like hand symbols to cast things.
Right, where they're doing a bunch of stupid, Sailor Moon type hand.
Was that
gestures.
Did Sailor Moon do that stuff too?
Yes. But no, I don't do that.
Well, I mean, usually
because the energy is all internal.
The energy's all internal.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to do a 4-minute kata just to do one thing.
Okay. What about just? I guess it's not that type of magic, like hexes and stuff, like having the hand movements for certain things or hand. You know what I mean?
Nope. That's one of the things that I kind of like about it more is like that scene where this goes back a few chapters, like anyway. But there's a scene in the book where Mikno is talking to the centaurs, the guards, and then suddenly a gust of wind blows the guards off of it, off of the bridge into the water, into the moat, and I like that because there's no
no warning.
No warning.
Then how do you want to fight?
The way you win any fight. If somebody comes up to you and sucker punches you, there is a good chance that you're not winning.
Okay.
Because let's face it, that shit happens all the time.
Right.
And especially if they continue to attack you after they sucker punch you that first time. Because let's face it, in martial arts, the idea of constant attack is ingrained in every martial art. You don't stop once you've punched them that one time.
Okay.
You want it to continue until they stop moving.
I get that. It's just... Alright.
So yeah. So being able to ambush somebody, do that sneaky shot, or that secret assassin move of stabbing somebody in the lungs real quick, and then walking away, that's all still possible.
That's kind of funny. That would be funny.
What?
Oh, I'm just thinking with, you said, the human saved his life.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting if he had a human talisman that he had from him. So here I'm trying to put the brimstone.
Right.
And using maybe it's attached to a cross.
Maybe.
I mean, just because, it's like he doesn't use the cross. He wouldn't know what it was.
What it was for?
Yeah, but it's...
It may have been a gift.
Not just not even a gift, but maybe he went and after he was executed, he claimed his possessions.
Right.
And kept that as a
reminder. Which is better than the reminder of looking in a mirror.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a reminder of what.
That he's still alive.
They're still alive, but the other thing would be a reminder of him saving them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, what a horrible drawing.
What do you mean?
It's just so scratchy and...
Looks pretty good.
Loose.
It's just not done yet. Remember what Bob Ross says.
Happy little accidents.
They're happy accidents.
Happy little accidents. His whole face isn't scarred, right?
No, just half.
Just half, yeah.
But it burned his hair off.
Yeah, I need to. There's a guy I follow, Crispy something or other.
Crispy?
Yeah, he's a war veteran that.
He was burnt?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
IED.
Yeah.
Went off in his Jeep and.
Jesus, in his Jeep.
His vehicle, whatever, and he got trapped in there with it, I think.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yep.
Follow him on Instagram. Oh, yeah, here. So I found. Oh, here's my phone. So check. Let's see here. No.
No.
Oh, I hate this. I just. Why does Instagram have to leave? There's Crispy 11B. There's Crispy.
Is that? Does he have both his legs?
He's got one.
Yeah, he goes on Demolition Rants once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah, he's a real cool guy.
Yeah.
Dang it, why couldn't it just stay where I was at?
Yeah, he's on Demolition Rants once in a while. He was there. There was this one where they had that gold van that he had for a little bit before they destroyed it. But they actually mounted a hand crank Gatling gun in the side of that. Damn. That doesn't even look like a... It focused. Cool. That doesn't even look like a doll.
Mm-mm.
That looks like an honest God person.
Yeah, you think that would be almost a picture, right? Or
Right, it does. It looks like Schwarzenegger.
this he's got. You gotta find one down here that he did.
Those are eyes, man.
He's done some. Creepy or what? Tell me that's not creepy.
It's focusing. There it goes.
That's creepy. And then when he got it all done.
Focus. Done. Wow. Crazy. I wonder what he uses for hair.
But he does all these different ones. He's got this.
Nice.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, I think it's actually bigger than Schwarzenegger.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, but maybe in his heyday. Yeah.
And this guy from Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I can only imagine how much they must cost.
Jesus.
Because the doll already is like $200, $250 on some of them. And then to have him put his realism to it, I mean, oh, come on, that's awesome.
It is.
I know I'm an old man, but that stuff's just so cool.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that that's
I just
not the real guy.
Oh, I know that's a toy, not a movie still.
Right.
Oh man, and he did. See there, he's changed the eyes to the side. That is so creepy. This Mark Hamill.
Wow.
Rambo. I was looking for this one that he did that it was why is my mind going blank? I just had it to say. Oh, it's the Batman from
Batman v Superman, the Ben Affleck Batman. Gosh, that Batman was awesome. How thick he was, you know what I mean? It's like, he just looked like power.
Well, yeah, I mean, so far out of every Batman that they've ever, or any actor that they've gotten to play Batman, he's the closest to the right size.
Mm-hmm. In the
Nice.
in the camo. I know, I was like, ah. I wonder what the waiting period is. You know what's crazy to me is some of these guys, I don't think this is a hobby.
Right.
And
obsession is more like it.
well, it's you can actually afford. I mean, you can make a living. There's enough people out there who want to buy this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because maybe you know, his time, if it's $50 an hour or something, it's probably what I would charge, somewhere around there. And then you have to scale up, and the amount of hours it takes just to do one figure to completion. These things probably end up being about $1,000, $1,500
Yep.
for one of them. Which I'd gladly be excited to pay, because I think that stuff's so cool. I want to have, like I said before, I want to have big, huge sculptures of characters. I would love to have commissioned art from other people of our characters.
Yeah.
You know,
That'd be sweet.
pay them to do something, a nice painting of something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. It'd definitely be cool.
So, you know, one thing I like how we talk, and so we don't just go, well, we'll go around the circle a little bit, but
Yeah.
but this time we talked a lot of story stuff, and it wasn't just story, but it was kind of like how we come up with our story, or how we start off talking with the thumbnails, right?
Right.
So,
Which I like that lead page on the, felt kind of like a movie.
oh, which lead,
The writing.
oh, the writing,
You know,
this one.
I like putting it there at the end because it's almost like there was a movie intro and then you get a title page.
Right, it's kind of what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but it like I said before, so this is what I'm talking about, is I want to talk about the process of our storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not so much just storytelling or
Right.
the likes we have of other stories, but our process in storytelling.
Right.
Is I took what I had done before to a critique group,
Mm-hmm.
and they stopped reading after 2 pages. And it wasn't even people that bought comic books, you know what I mean? But it was just other artists, and they're like, we couldn't tell what was happening. They got lost or disconnected from the characters. And one of the things when I went back and was reading is we made a promise kind of at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then we didn't do anything about the promise. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, it was just in my mind, and a thing I thought of. And so this opens up with a scenario where we see technology destroying lower class technology, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
not what we think of. I mean, fire was technology, right?
Right.
But we don't think of it as technology. We don't think of it as tech. But it was tech, right? But here we have this opening scene with the mech and the Spitfires, and that comes to a conclusion, and we see this advanced technology, and then you get this statement.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the technology that's going to destroy the world. And it's like, wait, what? We just saw technology destroy everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not the destruction. She's not going to be the thing that's going to destroy everything.
Right.
And then we go into start telling this other story, and it kind of, you think it's going to be something else, but then it picks right back up with the
Mm-hmm.
Spitfires flying, you know, and then we're gonna go to the mech and Nazis and blah blah. Nazis then mech, blah blah. But it's like, so in my mind when I'm processing this and I was reading through the story, that's why I had ideas of showing like Len shattering time eventually. Mm-hmm. Even if it wasn't the beginning, if it was at the end of this book, there's that payoff at the end.
Right.
Oh, that's what's going to destroy. Now the venture is how do we stop it?
Right.
We've introduced all the characters. We've introduced some of the players. Not all the players, but we've introduced quite a few of them. We've set up the world.
I definitely want to do that scene.
And then it's like, here we said at the beginning, technology isn't going to do it, so what is? It was Len doing magic at the end, right? And it's like, boom, there's the end of book 1, and then we kick up with book 2. Now the adventure
continues
to stop Len. You know what I mean? You could. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like. So then, in my mind is how that scene doesn't have to be very long. I just have an idea of showing him. Actually, I didn't even have it going through the whole ritual. But I mean, you can if you want, whatever. But my thing was just at the end of the ritual, he's completely zapped of all of his energy. He has his priests pick him up. Mm-hmm. And then I have it in some type of, I don't know where it is, but I have this just all in blackness, but yet this path that's suspended up in the air. You know, it's just this long, I don't know, quarter-mile type of thing. So wherever he is underneath ground, it's huge and vast, or whatever type of temple or whatever. But I thought it'd be interesting to have them walk him out, and he walks out maybe of the pyramid or some pyramids, or maybe just some of these other temples that they have. Right. Down in the lower kingdom, or the upper kingdom. That's the lower part for us. That's so weird how they thought of things. Mm-hmm. Of course, maybe in their period of time, things were flipped. Anyway, because I just watched a bunch of stuff last night, some Randall Carlson stuff. Right. But and then he walks out to a concourse of people, and he leaves his guys. He walks out and he puts his hands out in the Christ fashion, and then everybody cheers and erupts, and there's like drones videotaping, you know, broadcasting it to the world, you know. So the world is, whoa, what's that? Change, and then from there, and that's how it ends. We just end to his to thunderous applause.
So you wanted to show not only that he was a big person in this time period before he did the ritual, but where he ends up, he's still revered as a god.
Well, yeah. I mean, because when I went through,
because that's one of the things that we talked about on the podcast is and one of the things that I wanted to include more and more of in the book was I wanted to show how Len has traveled through time and has basically created this church of people that are worshiping him, and I want it to be not the biggest church on the planet, we're not talking about Christianity here, but big enough to where there's a lot of different followers, and when it finally reaches, to where it's further into the future, the church is quite grown.
Well, I've been noticing lately, like on Tim Pool's show, that little Ian guy, a lot of people who don't necessarily want to do Christianity anymore, but when they broke Christianity in America, you have all these people now flailing for some type of order. They don't want to go over there. Right. There's nothing for them over on the other side. Right. And so they're starting to try to turn back to naturalistic stuff, old mysticism.
Right.
You know, he keeps talking about chakras and openings and, you know, all this stuff. And so people are clamoring for some type of, which is funny, some type of divinity, some type of order in their life.
Right.
You know, and what's fascinating is to listen to a group of people try to tell you to separate the person from the organization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need to, you know, most people are this, you know, even though this does this, most people are this, and so don't tie them to that, you know. But when it comes to religion, they won't do that, you know. Which is quite fascinating. So, that's where you could grow it, you know what I mean? In that mysticism realm.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger to where actually they end up, the majority of people are doing that instead of the others.
Right. Yep.
So, and I guess that's why, in some instance, so if we did 80 pages, and I'm at 16 where I'm at right now, and if that was a 3-page thing, or a 2-page, you know,
Right.
it's like all of a sudden economy of pages starts happening.
Right.
Well, in my telling of the first time here in this,
Right. Are we live on Twitch?
yeah,
What's the title?
uh,
Or is our title?
well, it would probably just easier to go to the channel.
What's the channel?
Jam Spoon,
Oh, James.
Twitch at Jam Spoon, or It is it's twitch.tv/Jam Spoon.
TB as in boy?
TV as in television.
Oh,
So
TV.
Twitch.television, so TV,
At
then / Jam Spoon.
Twitch.
I'm sure
TV /
Jam Spoon with 3 O's.
Yeah, I know that one.
See here, I have the thing with the Nazis is what I have right now. I have this is 5 down, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that's 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 24 pages of just Nazi fighting. And then a page of the knights cleaning themselves up, whatever, or talking about what crazy thing happened. The Nazis reappear with the mech, and then we have another 1, 2, 3, 4. So what that is 30. It's 29 pages to get from the encounter with the Nazis to the end of the mech to the flashback.
Alright.
So 29 more pages compared to the 16 that I just have. So that puts us at 39 45.
Right.
So that pushes us 45 right there. If you had 3 pages, 4 pages for the land thing. So that's 50. So we got 30 pages to play with of what? You know what I mean? Because there's tons of stuff.
Honestly, I need to go back and read the script to see where I can insert that scene. So, I mean, it's been so long since I've read the script. Hell, it's been so long since I've read the original novels.
Well, the thing, what's what's coming up next is there's a long section of Lucius and Garvin,
right, and the training and all that kind of stuff,
which is what is really in there.
mm-hmm.
And then you put in the samurai stuff in there. You wedged
Right.
that in. Originally, you had wedged in a little bit of the Goblin Elf War.
Mm-hmm.
Was a little bit in there too, but I think you took that out in revision. But depending on how long, it's like you could do the 30 pages. You could do. I mean, if you want, you could do that. Split between the training and the samurai, or all training,
Right.
be all backstory of that stuff, which could work. So I mean, if you did backstory of, say, in my instance, of Micno and Lucius, and exploring the world and all that stuff, and him learning and going through the school and meeting whatever, and even if he did, and then you have the end with Len, and then you can start the next book with the presidents and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and Lucius explaining light and dark magic there with Garvin and the scene in the woods. But then that really radically changed. Then you can tell Mariah's story
Right.
a little bit, because he's going to be pivotal in the story. Although that might change, what's a little difficult though is just tell a story, because so much of it was just re-breaking time over and over again.
Right.
But once you've explained this, it's like, well, now why are we learning about him? What's so important about him that he's going to do at the end?
Right.
And that's kind of the idea that I said. The beautiful thing that's in the books is you explore the breaking of humanity with Len's generals and his lieutenants and things, and his priests. I love that. I love that stuff. I love that stuff more than the training, because you almost, well, not in the graphic novel, but in the book you go through the training twice.
Right.
Because you'll do
in the second book,
Lucius, and then you do Garvin's too, and it's almost
kinda
right. But so you probably did all of Lucius's stuff in Garvin's story in the graphic novel.
Right.
But
I mean, Micno is much better at talking about the energy and stuff like that.
Well, and he's a cool character.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And Lucius, he teaches Garvin, et cetera, about energy, but I don't know if he takes the time to explain everything the way Micno does.
Right. Well, the only reason to go on that then would be is to stay with Garvin longer, because and that's a whole story there, right? Because it's like with Star Wars. So you have Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and then Anakin, right?
Right.
And you can see how Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan taught different compared to how Anakin wound up, right? Turned out, right?
Right.
I mean, that's that whole thing with the Duel of the Fates thing that we talked about last time.
Yeah.
So you have Micno to Lucius to Len to Garvin to the Elemental Knights, and Lucius complaining that Garvin rushed the Elemental Knights through training, and most of them just half-assing it, or are wielding more power than they have, that they can A, control, or B, weren't morally taught to control it from the beginning. Because I think that's part of any discipline, right? Any martial arts discipline is, with the great power comes great responsibility. So you might be able to hurt somebody specific, but that doesn't mean you need to go out and hurt people.
Right.
You know,
Well,
so
you know, one of the things I was just thinking was, you know, we got these different storylines going on. You know, like you said, we have Mariah, and then we have you know, Lucius and the Knights, and you know, the mech driver and all these people. You know, we kind of meet. But one of the things that, you know, we don't meet Mariah until later, after Mariah gets, you know, to have some fun. But one of the things that would be kind of fun would be to do another storyline and insert it in there to where it was a bad guy's storyline, like maybe a priest,
right,
of Len's church.
Well, the whole thing to me though was, well, why do we introduce Mariah? Why are we introducing any of those other characters?
All of these, you know, just to answer that question, all of these characters were introduced to show contrast between future and past.
Right.
And so Mariah was from feudal Japan, and, you know, he's an honest to God samurai, and I threw him into a world where robots rule the day and they hunt humans like they're a plague.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just kind of a fun story.
Right. No, it's great.
Yeah.
So, but for me, in my thing, when I was going through all the books, all 8 books, and as I was thinking about it, my idea is okay, Mariah is going to take out this priest in the end battle.
Right.
So and so is going to end up taking out this guy.
Right.
It's kind of like I talked about in Naruto, in the opening storyline, when Sasuke finally has enough and he's going to go to Orochimaru to be top, to get more power. And Naruto and his little classic group go after the 4 upper class ninjas that have taken him, right? That are, and they didn't take him; they're leading him, right? So they think that they've taken him, but they don't realize that he's going with them voluntarily.
Right.
But as they go, one of the upper class ninjas says, "You guys keep going; I'll slow them down." And so they stop. They start the fight, and then one of Naruto's group says, "I'll fight him. You guys keep going after Sasuke." You know, and it's this leapfrogging event that keeps happening with these 4 things, and the battles are freaking epic and awesome. You know, but it's like something like that can happen as we're trying to get to Len, and each one of these guys gets thrown at the groups, and then these characters that we actually introduced and learn to like are then the ones that take on them and fight and battle and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
that's
because you have the Spanish general, you have the sniper dudes, you have the I think your Civil War guys or something like could be like comedy relief because they're like fish out of water. They get stuck in the wrong camp, and they got to be like, "Oh yeah," you know.
right.
So that's funny.
Yeah.
And then, so in my mind, that's how I saw some of that playing out because
yeah, it would be, you know, that would be fun to turn some of these characters, because that's another thing that I like to do. You know, is I don't like the idea that somebody starts out evil, you know, because I'm of the opinion that everybody thinks that they're the hero of their own story, and so everybody thinks they're doing the right thing, you know, but there's, you know, conflict that comes into play, and so yeah, it would be great to take some of these characters and kind of you know, as they're developing in their life, they, you know, are maybe going to this, you know, little known church type thing, you know.
right.
But you can imagine how, you know, all these people that are part of this church, you know, having a God that literally tells them, okay, I'm going to leave you, but I promise that I will reappear on this day. You know, and he can tell you the exact day that he's going to reappear in you know, the church's lifespan. And it's like, you'd have to say that would be somebody that everybody would do, oh shit, he actually did.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't aged a day.
Right.
Holy crap.
So there's a whole story that has to happen
Right.
before Shattered Time.
There has to, yeah.
Because once time is shattered, once Lucius tells who they are, they can tell everybody that he is just this.
Right.
Which a lot of people will be like, no. But a lot of people are like, oh, really? That's all it was? Mm-hmm. And Lucius can do the magic and show you that, yeah, he just did a spell.
Right.
And so him winding up was just time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he's just a regular person?
Not quite, but yes.
But in a sense, you know what I mean? So you still have to have your dogmatic leaders that are going to stay with him. Mm-hmm. And then but there's going to be a lot of people disenfranchised through that. Yeah. So a lot of that storytelling comes before time has shattered. Yeah. And you can actually go back and you could spend a few pages just learning about these people and some of the choices they made and why they were chosen by Len. And it doesn't always have to be that they were... Sure, there's going to be a couple that were just cruel, evil people that you'd want to turn into, like, I mean, I love the idea of turning into mystical creatures too, you know? Right. Like, you go find Jack the Ripper, or you find Gacy, you find, I mean, and there's got to be worse people in history, right? What about the Diocles, the gladiator from ancient Rome that fought, he fought enough rounds to get his freedom. He must be some bloodthirsty badass, right? So you guys have taken that guy and turning him into like a werewolf, or giving him the strength and power of a werewolf, or strength and, you know, something. And that'd be freaking awesome. And then the battle that has to happen, and then which of our heroes is the one
that has to fight that poor guy?
That confronts him on the battlefield, you know? Which I love to see Mariah take that on. Yeah. You know, it kind of reminds me of that Frank Miller Wolverine story where Wolverine is fighting Shingen at the end. Right. His father-in-law, or soon to be father-in-law. And Sinjin's just chopping him up. And he's just getting, that would just be a ferocious battle. But by that time, you have Mariah. I don't know if he has magic helping him or if he's augmented, maybe just with speed. His speed out against his brutality would be an amazing fight.
Here's the question, and that this is one of those things that we have to go back and research, because this goes all the way back to the RPG, which, by the way, I don't even know if I have a copy of that thing anymore.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, it was all handwritten, basically. Anyway, the question that we have to answer is how many wars total are we talking about here?
Right. Because not only do you have...
Because I would like to have a bad guy, like a top priest from each one of these eras. Each one of these, you know... So yeah, so that's one of those things I have to...
too many.
I have to research.
But not only is it just bad guys, but he could go throughout time and handpick just devastating people. Yeah, and he could bring them through time with him. Yeah. So when time is shattered, you could have somebody there that wasn't technically in the war or in a war, but now they're there to be his priest. I mean, there has got to be, and also these,
all these priests, you know, they've all these followers basically have heard over time and time again. Len promises something and then he delivers it. It's like, I'm going to reappear on this day in the future, and he does, and so everybody's faith is pretty much unshakable at that point. And when he tells them this fantastical story that he's going to create this world of chaos, they're not going to be surprised at all.
Well,
in fact, they're going to be looking forward to it.
Right. And I don't even know if if he has to call it a world of chaos. He just needs to call it a world of delight, because it's a delight to him.
Right.
You know what I mean? He can talk personally as he wants. So, and not only that, but we only have time period from what we know recorded history to now. You got all the way to 5,000.
Yeah, it was like 528.
Right. So there's another 3,000 years of history.
Right.
That
I made up completely.
That you made up. So if we've had this many wars in 2,000 years, how many is in, or maybe about 4,000 years? I guess we're in about 4,000 to 5,000 years of recorded history. But how much is in the next 3? And then do you pull in the whole idea of past civilizations, past cataclysm?
You want my head to explode, literally?
And stuff like that.
Right.
So, my thing is, so that's why I looked. Why? You know what sucks is being poor.
Yeah, that it ranks up there as one of the worst things to be. Yeah,
and it's not even about it's being just poor enough. Yeah. Do you know what I mean by that? What I mean by just being poor enough is, when I say something like $80, it's not a lot of money, but
it is a lot of money.
For us to spend $80 on something, it's like I was looking, and some guy had like a 8-foot or 6-foot dry erase board for $80. One of the types that come out of schools. And I could put that up on the wall, and I could post-it note and dry erase the story out. All 8 books or 10, whatever, all the way, however many books the story needs to be told.
Right.
Out. What I have on my little thing down there, it's too hard to see it all out, you know, and it's like, because it'd be nice to have that out.
You wouldn't have enough wall space.
Probably not. But even with what we'd have, we'd probably have enough to put that up. And then, see, like, as we were just sitting here and talking, well, where does that have to happen? It has to happen here.
We definitely
need what's there right now?
We definitely need a studio.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, what's happening there right now?
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, we gotta take that, and we put that here, this gotta go there, and then we write in what happened there. Right. And then all of a sudden, things start to...
Right.
And we'd be like, hold on, there's a story. Because as it is right now, like, you know...
That's why we need a studio. It's a big
studio would be nice.
Right? I mean, because honestly, to do that, it'd probably take, 5 or 6 walls.
Probably. But I think we could probably get it done in one. You know what I was just thinking? I wonder,
not always.
But how do I find a piece of it? No. So maybe if anybody knows Marty, because not too many people know me, I'll have to ask my wife, because she, from her people at work, ask around. If anybody knows anybody was wood paneling.
I have wood paneling.
Do you?
Yeah.
Just a sheet of wood paneling? Well, you have it in the house.
Anyway,
I know you have it up.
Right, continue your idea.
Well, the idea is the wood paneling is a slick enough surface that a post-it note would fit on it very well, or something.
Right.
And so you could post-it note the story out on wood panel, because like on my wall it's textured,
right,
and I tried putting them up and they just fell down,
right.
That or or try to find some like butcher block paper. You know, the butcher paper that you can just pull out. You can put butcher paper up there.
That's a thought.
That's a thought too.
Right. But yeah. It's so funny. We need our own studio, man.
Oh gosh.
Get it all set up the way we want it, you know, facing each other or whatever. On the
Right,
desk.
like have a desk where we face each other or something, and then I want to have it
Plus
so
you
where
have
there's
the computers.
right. You have the computers. You have your computers that you can work at. Because one thing that he's talked about that I'd like to have him get him to do, which would be great, is well, you can do it on an iPad. I think an iPad takes handwriting much better than like these.
Right.
But even still, but handwrite the book out on. You can do it on an iPad. You can do it on one of these.
I'm more comfortable typing, but yeah.
Well, I know, but you talked about how it'd be cool if the book was actually handwritten.
Well, that was it. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I've talked about as far as me actually writing the lettering on the comic book. Also, one of the things that I thought would be fun, because you know it's funny if you look at my handwriting, which nobody can see that at home, but my handwriting, it's I don't even know how to describe it. I usually write in all uppercase, and I don't write cursive. I write, and the reason I do that is because at one point I was trying to be a cop. I was in criminal justice classes, and when they do report writing, they actually write in all uppercase letters, and because it's easy to read.
Mm-hmm.
But I found over the years of writing that way that my handwriting is unique enough and good looking enough to where people commented on it all the time, like, I like your handwriting. And I thought it'd be kind of cool. I guess it's kind of an ego thing. I always thought it'd be kind of cool to have my writing turned into a font and put into a computer. So
you could do that too.
So when I
You
type,
could pay somebody to do that.
right? Yeah.
I know a girl around town who does fonts. And she could actually create a couple extra fonts too for us for a different type of thing. She's so good. If you need signs done,
Well, another nerdy
type
thing.
affiliated on Instagram. She's amazing.
Another nerdy thing that I liked, that I always thought would be fun to do, is in the original book, which I'm reading to you guys, there's scenes where they're speaking in Elven. And I've actually thought that would be kind of cool to actually have somebody create the Elven language, although that's already been done in Lord of the Rings and shit like that. So
another thing, that's been done a couple times.
Right.
That's a tough thing to come up with.
right, because the reason that I chose the names that I chose, because I said what I thought would be kind of cool is a language that had a lot of hard K's in it, a lot of Stelic, and then a lot of Z's in it. That's why Izzy and Jezzy and so
It's kind of German, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, this is just the thoughts that were going through my mind. Because and I thought that the K noises was more of a male sound, and that's why the females in the book that are Elven have the Z in their name, Izzy, Jezzy, etc. And Mikno has the hard K noise in it. So that was my thought process on the whole thing. So
I know that. I think the way Tolkien went after his, he talked about the elves were like water, fluid, and so he wanted his sounds to be fluid, roll.
Right, his was a lot of
Yeah. So and then the orc language is hard. But lava, the rock.
Right.
So
as you can see, yeah, it's
But you could. I mean, if you took that same approach, take a German language, and add that to fluidity to it. It might sound really
I'm
weird.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it. I mean, it's, you know, I'll just stick with the names for now. I mean, the hard K's and the soft Z's, or, you know, the female Z's and the male K's. So, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is.
See, that's why I keep telling you at the end of these, go home and write, because we talk about like how the story, just evolve the story tenfold, but yet it doesn't have to get any bigger. We just have to take out things that are in the book right now that are redundant, and can just take those out and change them to character building story parts, because we don't need to see Shatteredtime over and over again,
Right.
because we've already established that. But you could have like Mariah's fight with the android killer, or the human android killer. And it doesn't have to take place in the past, but it could be like you have him later fighting in the streets of Detroit. You could have that fight moved up to introduce Mariah and the android, because they're collecting something, or maybe they're going after the same piece of information, or same thing that or type of thing. Maybe introduce Mariah. He's already looking for something on his own. He hasn't met up with Lucius yet.
Right.
And him and the android are going after. The android was actually going there on behest of Len to get something, to get this, whatever it is.
Right.
Mariah doing his own investigation, and then they clash and have a fight, which would be kind of cool.
Right. I mean,
especially if he saw his retainers with him,
But are you talking about the first time he runs into?
Yeah.
In your cross-dressing.
which
cross-dressing android,
which I thought was cool back then, but now I don't know if I'm going to do that. But he's still kind of cool.
It would blend in.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody would think it's just some geisha girl until it fucking rips your head off. I think it's still a great scene. That's the thing that's the hardest is you come up with these great scenes in your mind, and then you step back and you go, is this important enough to keep in the story? And you're like, fuck that, I don't want to get rid of it. Because one of the things that I want to add, because we've added the mech driver into the story as a kind of a important character, because we're going to use her as that the two extremes again. We're going to use her as the future person talking to the people from the past, and that way everybody can get on the same page, and and it helps the reader too. But it also adds so much to these scenes, like, because that one scene where now they have to get from point A to point B to find these leaders, so Lucius can talk to the leaders and convince them that this is what's really going on. And there's that scene where they're traveling, and as you pan the camera backwards, you see that they're literally being dragged in some kind of vessel. We haven't decided whether it was a vessel or, hell, even a building. And the mech is literally dragging this vessel with them riding on it. That's awesome. Because one of the things that also during their conversations that we have to establish is that she is hardwired, connected to that fucking mech. There's no she can tell
Bluetooth.
She can tell it to stay, if they have to go into a building or something, but she is hardwired to it. It's not like they can just disconnect her and take her somewhere. man, I mean, they're connected. So, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's so many scenes that, you know, you describe and stuff like that where, yeah, I mean, you just fall in love with these scenes and you don't want to get rid of them.
Well, yeah, the worst part is you come up with all these scenes and it's like, well, how do you link them all together?
Right, but
that
one's an easy one.
That's usually my problem.
Because, I mean, she has now become their chauffeur.
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, because she is... she has all the knowledge. She has a computer that basically can tell her all this stuff. Anything that's in that computer, she knows or has access to. So, yeah. She's become that... What do they call those people at a hotel? The
concierge.
Concierge. That's what she is.
She's our get out of plot hole easy character.
One of them.
Crap.
Because I mean, she would have no idea what the hell magic is or anything like that. But
well, she would assume it was just technology.
Yep, and she'd be wrong.
That he's doing it by technology device.
Yeah.
Right. See, I don't even remember that. I just know that he has to get to the king, and then the next time we talk about that, he's just there.
Right.
He's talking to the king.
There's more flashbacks of Darwin.
Right, but
so I don't ever show the travel.
We never even show the travel.
Nope.
And then we don't even show. We also the thing I thought about before too is we don't show. We show what happens a little bit here and here of this happening and this happening. We don't show widespread just annihilation, because you would think they're just, I don't know, 10,000 people here, 10,000 people there. All of a sudden, they're all standing next to each other, fighting. What happens when they happen to be on the same battleground and guys are already shooting guns, and now you have a bunch of Roman soldiers just getting mowed down, caught in the middle or something. So then they turn and they're fighting, and then you just have this. You know, if he took, let's just call a number, 10 billion people, flash them in the same period of time, at the end of that, like initial 24 hours, 48 hours,
there'd have to be at least 15 to 20% that would be dead.
Probably more than that. Just think of how many people, what would happen if it was Dresden just as the bombs were going.
Right.
On a bombing run, or
right.
You know, or we even have the nuclear bombs at Nagasaki or Hiroshima. You know, right. We don't even know if there's. I mean, we could have fun and say not fun, but I mean speculate that in
the robot
3250,
right,
there was a massive battle with millions of people on either side that took place near there.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, and they're getting taken out, you know, and blah 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 blah, and bombardments, you know. You just had this mass just, and that was the idea to me, is you show that mass all over the world, Len's soaking up all that stuff.
Yep.
And then he soaks up enough to actually rip time and go into a place and just kind of, I don't know, surf the astral project, you know, whatever type thing. So he goes, and then he's gone for a long period of time, actually, from everybody. Right. And then we're trying to figure out where he went, how to find him, and that's our little building up. We're learning all about his generals that are still here on, because they're controlling like different sections, and we're taking them out and trying to find out where Len went.
Well, I mean,
and then Len comes back. You know what I mean?
Well, you know, because in that last fight, spoiler, in the last fight between Len and Lucius, which we still haven't completely written yet, because we're still trying to figure out whether Lucius was going to have help. But anyway, I digress about that. But because the way I described it in the book is they're kind of like an in-between spot where all the world around them is frozen and they're just trapped in this like time bubble where they can still move and stuff, but everybody else on the outside has no effect on them. But I mean, if we're gonna get real nerdy and talk about it, is time travel, is it honest to God traveling through time, or is there is this like a multiverse thing? That's where you get into the stuff that's pretty hard to describe. But yeah. What are you writing? He suddenly started writing something.
Right. So I was just had this idea, of, because you've always talked about trying to show this passage of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then my idea is you show the passage of time, and then there's this whole new universe we've created.
Right.
This post-apocalyptic / rebuilt in some areas type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we get to that? And there's a scene right here, which to me is kind of really interesting. While Lucius and the knights, these elemental knights right here, are talking to the mech driver and trying to figure out what time period they're in,
Mm-hmm.
she notices that a bunch of B-2 bombers are flying overhead.
Mm-hmm.
To say something's happening.
Right.
Well, what happens if they get bombed? So what I was, I was talking about this idea was the idea that there's this mass destruction, right?
Right.
So say 10 billion, and then a billion left. So 10%,
Mm-hmm.
only 10% survive.
Right.
So you actually have smaller pockets of humanity still left after this great destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Len absorbs so much that he's able to go off, and then I wanted this. I was like, how do we stretch time, out a little bit? And I thought of the idea that Len actually used the life element to heal Lucius to the idea that he actually gives him life, like extra years on his life. Like he gave him an extra 20, 30 years. And so when we catch back up with things, it's 20 years later, it's 30 years later, and people have settled in to this way of life. That was one thing. And so, like, they get bombed in the mass destruction, but Len was there, shield them, or got there, saved them, because he has to be the one that takes them out. Right? He wants that Quigley down under fight with him at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just has to have it, but
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know.
if you think about it, Len's motivation, and this is going to get deep. Len's motivation is the souls or the energy from these other people, and the only way he can have that is conflict.
right.
And so he's created a world that has as much conflict as possible. And as things become normalized, quote, and people have settled into their new routine, there will be less conflict. So he has to keep somebody around where that can cause conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny, it's a whole catch-22. I mean, he may hate Lucius deeply and wants him dead, but at the same time, somebody has to be there to be the focus of conflict.
Right.
That's kind of funny. Wow.
So I know. So that was a way that maybe he gives everybody in that bubble.
Mm-hmm.
He's drawn stuff from outside, infusing it in them, and they're actually still alive. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then another thing I thought about is he loves to eat the souls, but maybe the more
quote unquote evil the soul is, maybe the more it's greasy. I don't know. It tastes better or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's more desirable.
Dark chocolate.
And so the idea of I had was as the civilization he's building up. It's decadent. It's all these things that are, you know, the 7 deadly sins. They're just all in lust with all that stuff, so that he's ripening them up for a slaughter again. You know.
Right.
And so that my idea was 30 years later, I still have that idea that Lucius is, you know, he's given up the war because nobody wants to fight because everybody's happy and doing whatever, you know. And he had the mech driver come in and say, "We gotta go again. We gotta start again." He's like, "Nobody's gonna do it." He's like, she's like, "No, something's different this time. You can feel it. He's, you know, something's coming. People don't think something's coming, but you know something's coming. I know something's coming." Blah, 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 blah. And then they go out and they're looking to find him, whatever. But he's off in that astral thing until he finally comes back out of it. He wears off after so many years. So now he's got to get back, get everything all organized for another culling. And whether or not it's going to be the final culling or if he's just going to cull again and then let things rebuild itself and take them out again, you know. And there's a way to bring in that whole idea of extinction events, you know, that have happened, you know.
Right.
You know, was that just land building up society, slamming it down, building up society, slamming it down.
Well, yeah.
But you know what I mean, though. So
that's so funny. Because I mean, that's one of the things that I've, you know, because everybody always asks, you know, our historians and you know, people like Graham Hancock, etc. You know, talk about the pyramids and stuff, and you know how they were built, and you know how did they have the technology to do these things, to move these massive stones, etc., etc. And it's like I explained it away in my book in one line. It's like, oh yeah, the pyramids were built by elves. Bam, done.
Well, and here's the idea too. It's like, you know.
And yeah, so now you're explaining all the extinction events
Right.
for Len.
And then tie Len into is it the Keymaster? Yeah, it was the Keymaster at the in the Matrix, right? Isn't that who?
I thought you were going to you're making a Ghostbusters reference.
Isn't he? No, the Keymaster is the guy who gets him into the controller.
Right.
I think it's the controller he's talking to, right? Who tells him we've done this 7 times before. You know, it's almost like Len is the controller.
Right.
I've done this 7 times before. You're gonna stop me?
Right.
What makes your generation different from the?
Right.
There was one of you in each one of those generations I have defeated before. What's gonna make this one different?
Right.
Ah! Ooh, goosebumps. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
Well, it definitely helped set it up for an ongoing thing.
Now it's just be figuring out how to just outline it, because it doesn't need to be, you know, we don't have to have all the ins and outs, but just how all that goes, and then have all that filler stuff in the middle that, gosh, some cool stuff. But how do you do stuff that's not just redundant but keeps filling the story, and then have little turns here, some turns there, and some, and then but keeping it all going towards that final fight. Oh man, that'd be kind of interesting. I think that's kind of cool. That's kind of interesting.
Yep.
Because if we outline it like that, then we could really, as I chart out the pages, then you can really be able to say, okay, we're going to do 100-page books, 80-page book. And if one needs to be 110, one needs to be 90, one needs to be 70, you know, that's different. But we need to be able to tell them what we're going to offer them.
You know, 'cause the last thing you want to do is, oh, well, it turned out to be 130 pages, and then we have to foot the bill for the extra 20, 30 pages, and all of a sudden,
Right.
that's coming out of our pocket?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have money for that type of stuff.
Right.
And I've seen some of these guys that have had to do reprint runs or reruns for stuff, and they got hammered.
Mm-hmm.
They had X amount of money to do a book. They were under budget, and they're like, ha ha ha. And then all of a sudden something happened. They're like, uh-oh. And now they're screwed.
Yep.
And it's such a fascinating market today, too, that people, you know, they're looking for stuff. And
Well, I mean, the good news is there's people out there like me that still love a good story.
yep. And what's really cool, too, is there's a whole generation now that have grown up with manga
Mm-hmm.
who there's more people that read comics now.
Yep.
Or, I wouldn't say read comics,
Mm-hmm.
but they're willing to read picture stories. They read manga, they read, like these books that I was showing you. The comic book industry is really, they're not,
Oh, yeah.
they're nowhere near what they were doing back in the 80s and 90s.
Right. I think everybody prefers the graphic novel format as far as
They like
feels
to
more
binge
like
it.
right, and it feels more like a book. I mean, you know, like a novel type thing.
They
But,
can binge it.
Here's the story. Here's a question for you.
Uh-oh.
It's on the same topic. If, say, you're a movie guy and you're wanting to make a movie, which would you rather make? The 4 novels that I've been reading, which a chapter at a time, granted, or
The graphic novel.
the graphic novel? Start at the end and jump around.
At the beginning of the day, at the beginning of our podcast,
Uh-huh.
the 4 novels.
Yeah.
What we just talked about,
Right.
the graphic novel.
Yeah.
Because that is so much more.
Oh, it
'Cause
it gets into the action real
That's
quick.
all of that plus.
Right.
It's all of that plus. The only thing that maybe the graphic novel doesn't delve into is the war that's about to happen.
Right. The Goblin War.
The little skirmish.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
It's pretty small. But there are dragons.
There are dragons. Yeah.
Which we would have to figure out a way to breed dragons later. But, you know, you have to have some dragons.
Yeah.
You know, that was...
Doesn't feel fantasy unless there's dragons.
Well, no, that's something, you know... I was watching this literary guy who teaches at the University of Chicago, which I guess is a huge literary program, but he was giving this lecture I was watching. He says, don't forget the genre that you're writing in. He's like, well, no, he's like, no, people come. They come to your book to read it because you say it's a fantasy novel.
Right.
And he's like, and if it's a fantasy novel, you
Stick with it.
you don't forget things like do you have to have a dragon in it? No, but don't forget things like dragons, like magic, like I mean he's like they're there for that.
Right.
Then they're not there for the character you create, you know, Joe.
Right.
They're there for Joe the magician.
Right.
Because they're there for the fantasy. So write to your audience.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, that doesn't mean you have to be so tropey, because people will turn off that way too if it's
Right.
overly tropey. But he's like, don't be naive to say, no, I am avant-garde enough that people will understand it's fantasy, but I don't have to use all the fantasy terminology. He's like, no.
Right.
They came for that. That's what they're looking for. They want to hear the weird names, the...
Right. I kind of like my description of the dragons, though, that they're riding. Because it's not like a European dragon, you know, like you see on the cover of a D&D book or whatever. I kind of wanted mine to look more like a... kind of like an Asian dragon, more serpent-like, but not quite. So I described it looking more like a hairless ferret or a weasel. I kind of like that. Of course, with wings.
I think what I drew was a kind of like a tiger with moose antlers. I did.
What's the moose antlers for?
Just for funsies. That's what I just for funsies.
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
But you loved it.
Yeah.
It was the picture I drew with. Here it is.
I like the long body.
With Mick, Yeah, it was. It had 6 legs.
Right.
2 in the back, 1 up front,
Yeah.
type of thing. Yeah, that was.
But yeah, I like the long body.
That was kind of my.
But the moose antlers are funny.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just needed something, so I just kind of threw them on with Mick
Yeah.
smoking a pipe with good old Lee Van Cleef
Yeah.
smoking a pipe.
It's funny.
No, I'd rather see the graphic novel. Because you get all of it in there.
Yeah. Could you imagine how expensive it would be to film this thing? It's like, okay,
Well, but you know what? Though?
we need some planes.
Is they set the precedent with Game of Thrones.
Right.
Although they did find they were very good at doing the small stage and not making it feel so. Like, there's some shows, where you can tell they only have so many sets. And so it's supposed to be a grand story, but yet you're always in these tiny sets.
Right.
So it doesn't feel very big. They did very good at making it feel bigger than it was. And then when they spent the money, they really spent the money. Some of those battle scenes. And then at the end with between the zombies and the White Walkers and the dragons. That was pretty cool. But I mean, we have dragons, White Walkers,
Goblins,
aliens, mechs, airplane. I don't even know if you could afford to do this dumb show. and then again, that would maybe be the reason why the graphic novel would work better, is because you could leave out some stuff because of the way the story runs. It's like, yeah, that's cool to show, but we really don't need it.
Yeah.
You really don't need this part of it. You don't need that part of it. But
Crazy.
wow, we got to 6:30 quick.
Yeah, it didn't take long. And what's funny is, even though we started out talking about some of the political stuff that's happened today,
Well,
we kept on the story thing for a good solid.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because it just goes to show you that stories are ever evolving.
Yeah. I listened to one guy, he said, stop thinking about that stuff so much. So stop worrying about it as much. I mean, you can think about some of the stuff and don't put your head in the sand. And he's like, all this is going to do is, it's on such a large scale right now that you really, it's like, what can you really do? So if you want to do something, make something and inform somebody through that, right? So he says you can't even do anything about that right now. Stop.
You're talking about politics, right?
Yeah. Stop turning your brain around and giving yourself heartburn and high blood pressure, worrying about that, because you can't do anything about that. But you know what you can do? You can raise your children a certain way, and you can create things that will help inform other people.
Right.
So, create. And so that's what I've been trying to do. And in this last week, I got a ton of shit done. I started carnivore a week ago again, so I've been on it for a week, and my brain is so the meat diet.
Oh, cool.
So my brain is a little less foggy too.
Nice.
And I've been able to come up, and I've been able to. I think these pages really are flowing.
Yeah, they look good.
And I think they have some good dynamic action. Cause I watched some old anime stuff, Macross, with airplanes, and how they were showing the action, and how they showed big thing. You know, they would let the planes get tiny, and show the action, then whop in your face and out again, back and forth to get the chaotic speed of this. And because that was missing in the mech with the Spitfires, and I think I got that. I think I got it down better than I had it before. That's for sure. I don't know if I can get any better than it is. So I'm just gonna put it to paper now and just start doing it.
And it will be posted on burnoutstudios.com.
Yeah, Burnout Studios, and then I will stream it, drawing it on Twitch. So you can subscribe down below, and when I go live, you'll be able to watch me do it. And if you have questions about the storytelling, about why I chose to panel this way or panel that way versus how Marty wrote it,
Well, it's funny because in a lot of ways because I wrote it a certain way, and then we went away from that completely and was doing the multiple storylines, but there was that scene I wanted to do where it made the readers anticipate more, where all you hear is what's going on in the radio person's headset. You don't see what's going on, and then there's the big reveal. Oh my God! Look at what they're what they see.
The only problem is that I had to change the reveal, and that's what's sad. Is I had this great picture, but maybe we'll just make that into a great poster,
right?
Of something that this is what we eventually had, but now it's changed, and now instead of a 2-page spread, it's just a 1-page reveal, and it still works pretty good. I think.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
All right.
Yep, now we have the hero shot.
so you can subscribe down below, like, share.
Yep. And tomorrow or next week.
And I'll have to put it in my thing, a link to my Twitch in the what's it called, the YouTube thing. But if not, it's It's a twitch.tv/jamspoon with 3 O's.
By the way, next week, my days off are pretty weird. I actually have, somehow I got lucky, and I actually have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off coming up.
Wow.
And so we might have to do something Monday.
Monday? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, I think Monday's a good day. I said Laura's she's working 2 days this week.
Right.
She works tomorrow and Saturday.
Cool.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Later.
Thank you.